Welcome to Topper Talk, your number one Western Kentucky athletics podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Moffitt, and I'm joined by co-host Tyler Bailey. Hilltopper Nation, whether it's happening on the hill or on the road, grab those red towels, stand up and cheer, because it's up next on Topper Talk. Right, and welcome back to another episode of Topper Talk podcast. As always, thank you for downloading and listening. You can find us on Twitter at @Topper_Talk. I've got my main man, Tyler Bailey, here with me. We're going to be covering one of my favorite subjects, and that is the transfer portal for football. Over the last few years, we've been both victim and victor to the portal. We've lost several players, very quality, high-producing players, but we've also have kind of made it a point of emphasis that we are always trying to find those next guys. And we talked about some of these people in the spring game recap that we did. The portal is a new facet of recruiting. It used to just be traditional high school. You fill in some holes with some JUCO guys. But now that, with the NIL collectives and the portal, that recruiting cycle and emphasis kind of been flipped on its head. Most schools are trying to hang on to dear life to their most productive players. Especially at our level, we're trying to keep those P5 guys away from them. And then you're also trying to find the best, kind of talent out there that already has game tape and has proven what they can do on the college stage. And then you're kind of filling your holes with the high school and the JUCO guys. So, we are lucky. Like I said, Helton has been just a major asset just for several years now as far as finding and identifying talent. And I said it on a previous episode, I think our system sells itself. When you have an offense that is just as fun and as electric and spreads the ball out just as much as we do, I mean, who wouldn't want to come play here? But at the same time, you also have players that want to increase their stock, their profile, maybe just their playing time. And sometimes you lose guys. They want to dip their toe in the water and see what's out there. So if you follow me long enough, one of my favorite sayings on Twitter is "the portal giveth, the portal taketh away." That's one of my trademark quotes there. And today we're going to cover all that. We're going to talk about guys that we lost. We're going to talk about guys that we kept. And then guys that we also brought in, which is just a fresh batch of talent. So that being said, I'm going to jump in first, talk about some guys that entered the portal and end up ultimately withdrawing their name. Thanks to our collective, the Red Towel Trust, shout out to those guys, Hank Wilson, Keith Wilcutt. They do a phenomenal job with our athletes, our programs, our coaches, just assisting in any and every way possible to retain players if possible, attract players. Really, they're doing a lot of good also in the community with community service and just making those players be highly visible. So those few guys, we've got Austin Reed, obviously QB1. He entered the portal, tested the waters. There were a lot of rumors circulating out there that U of L was sniffing around him. Jeff Brom had just newly taken that job and, kind of was looking for his quarterback to set his offense and his system in place there at his Louisville coaching gig. Now, they were offering him, flirting with him, but at the end of the day, Austin Reed decided to withdraw his name and come back to Western Kentucky. I'm sure there were some NIL, some ramifications around that. I'm sure we took good care of Austin, but QB1 led the nation in passing yards last year. We can't really blame us for trying to hold on to him. Then we had Jaquez Evans, defensive lineman, just, kind of one of those monster guys that force. We're just lucky and glad to have just a big defensive, applying pressure, stopping runs, just doing everything, kind of being that monster, that menace on the defensive line. So glad we got to keep him as well. And then another guy, Talik Allen, put his name in the portal, ultimately withdrew it and decided to stay at Western. So, those three guys, obviously great to have them, keep them, anybody wearing red and WKU on their chest. We're going to celebrate them. I'm going to get Tyler in here now, man. Tyler, what's your thoughts on these guys that, ultimately put their name in the portal, kind of sniffed around to see what was out there, and then decide to come back to school and, play at least another year with us?
I mean, with the three that we got back, I mean, at first, Austin Reed, it has to kind of start with him since he's kind of the commander out there. I mean, he's setting his stats are outrageous. In 2022, he was the New Orleans Bowl MVP, Conference USA Newcomer of the Year, All Conference USA second team, Davey O'Brien Award semifinalist, Conference USA Offensive Player of the Week, November 7th. He got the CFPA Week 10 honorable mention, Manning Award watch list, Maxwell Award watch list, the CFPA Week 4 honorable mention, and the Davey O'Brien Award watch list. Again, that dude, complete monster, complete just machine out there. With Donut, Evans, that boy, he's gonna stop the run. He's gonna clog up the middle. I mean, if you look at him, he's gonna bring up the stats right here for him. Hang on real quick. I mean, throughout the season, he had 64 solo tackles, 106 total tackles, and he had 14 tackles for loss. I mean, that boy, our defensive line likes pop-ups. Sorry about that. But that boy, the boy's going to stop the run. He's going to put pressure on the quarterback. If any running backs gets through there, they better be on the lookout for him because he's going to lay the wood. Talik Allen, he had 25 solo tackles, 47 total tackles, and he had 2 tackles for loss in this 2022 season. I mean, it's good to have that experience that we kind of grown on the defensive end. It's good to have them back. You're going to need leaders out there, and I think those two are imperative to have out there. And of course, Austin Reed. I'm expecting record seasons from him this year.
Yeah, then if you're looking at all these, kind of these preseason watch list, awards lists starting to come out, just slowly from different publications on Twitter. I mean, top 10 quarterbacks, top 10 wide receivers coming into this year. You're seeing some of our guys listed on there, and Austin Reed was listed as the number 2 guy on one of those lists, the number 2 quarterback returning to college football. So, that's a lot of praise. And obviously, when you can bring back a player of his caliber, you're going to expect just really, really, really good things from him. Another year in the system, more familiarity with the players. Obviously, we're bringing in a new offensive coordinator, but I don't expect us to miss a beat or have a hiccup, compared to where we've gone the last couple of years with Kitley, record-setting offense with Bailey Zappi. Then last year with Arbuckle, still putting up a lot of points, a lot of yards through the air. Coming this year with Drew Hollingshead, I expect it to be the same old, same old. I expect Austin Reed to get the ball out of his hands fast, spread the ball around to a lot of receivers, and just having him back is really just putting a target on our back to being, that probably the prohibitive favorite in CUSA. Kind of us and Liberty are kind of being looked at as those teams right now. But we kind of know what to expect on the offensive side of the ball. We're going to move on to the side of the portal that we don't like, the guys that we've lost. And obviously there's a myriad of reasons for that. It could be playing time, could be location of the school, homesickness, could just be somebody wanting, more exposure, a higher profile school, whatever that may be. In this list, some of these guys are listed as undecided. This is pulled straight off of the 247 and On3 WKU portal site. So this information is up to date as we could find when we were researching and looking for these names and these people. Obviously, if something's wrong on here, it's because it wasn't updated on those pages, and we've tried to be as accurate as possible. But these guys that have left, going to run down them real quick. Obviously, we could talk about some of them because some of these are, guys that have been here for several years, been very productive. And at the end of the day, when we're talking about the transfer portal, we've talked several times about Hilton being just a magician. I've called him in the transfer portal, just always finding those diamonds in the rough, and we celebrate those guys. When he brought in Bailey Zappi and Jared Stearns and just all these guys that are putting up huge numbers, we celebrate that. We love that. But the other side of that coin is, if we're going to love that we're getting great players, sometimes on the flip side of that coin, we're going to lose some players too. And that's just the world of college football, college athletics these days, is we're going to lose some players sometimes. And, I know that and we, as a podcast, I know we hold no ill will towards these guys. We would have loved to continue to watch them in a Western Kentucky jersey, and several of these guys that as they've moved on, and we've had prior relationships with them, just either on social media or seeing their parents at games, etc. I'm going to keep up with them. It's just habit. Even guys the past couple of years, if they've moved on, I'm going to watch, the team they went to and how they're doing, and cheer for their success. I hate that they left, but I understand. I get it. There's a lot of reasons, and at the end of the day, they have to do what's best for them or what they think is best for them, and sometimes that's moving to a new situation. So I'm gonna run down the list real quick, and then Tyler, I'm gonna have you jump in. We'll get your thoughts on some of these guys, because obviously some of these guys are gonna be really recognizable names. First off, we have Gunnar Britton, offensive tackle. He went to Auburn. Joey Belgian, tight end. He went to Cincinnati. Josh Simon, another tight end, went to South Carolina. Matthew Flint, linebacker, went to Austin Peay. Braden Narvison, Legatron, my boy, went to North Carolina State. Dakota Thomas, wide receiver. He's undecided on his location. Rusty Stats, the big man in the middle, went to Texas Tech, reunited with Hamby and Kitley there. Not mad at him at all, man. Good. I'm really happy for Stats, actually, and his family. Dante Walker, defensive end, undecided where he's going. Luke Slusher, offensive tackle, undecided. Darius Ocean, quarterback, undecided. Then we've got B.J. Wagner, defensive back, went to Northern Arizona. Kyle Robichaux, one of my favorite running backs, man. He was a really solid guy when he was healthy, man. It really did a lot of good for us. Decided to go to Boston College. Then we've got Jakari Moses, who, this isn't his first stint in the transfer portal. He entered before last season, I believe it was, after coming off an injury his second year after being a freshman all-conference player, a few years ago. And now he's back in the transfer portal, but is still undecided on where he's going to go. Then we've got Kendall Abdur-Rahim. He is undecided where he is going to go. He came to us from Notre Dame. He was a transfer in, and really just feels like one of those situations where that wide receiver room is so deep that he just wasn't getting enough playing time. Again, I'm speculating, but he's moving on and is undecided where he's going. Then we've got Travis Collier, cornerback, that's undecided. Just announced yesterday or the day before, AJ Braithwaite going to Arkansas in the SEC. So, on the biggest stage in football, the SEC, going to be a lot of big games and atmospheres. So great for him going to Arkansas. And then David Ndukwe, an offensive lineman, that's going to Houston. So obviously, a lot of guys in there. Some of them, I guess we kind of assume it might be playing time related. Some of those guys we just didn't get to see on the field a lot, but several starters and high production players and just familiar names to us for the last several years. And they've decided to move on, and that's fine. Obviously the the flip side of this coin is we're going to talk about guys that we're bringing in and we're constantly recruiting. And, during the season, if somebody gets injured, it's next man up. So same thing with the transfer portal, next man up. Guys, guys are going somewhere else, chasing whatever it may be. Next man up. So, Tyler, I guess give me your thoughts on this big batch of guys. A lot of players, a lot of production, a lot of people moving on to other stops. Kind of what's your thoughts on all these guys and kind of their next moves and what it means for our team?
Well, it does suck losing some experience like we're losing, like AJ Braithwaite. In the 22 season, he had 8 appearances with 2 starts, and he had 12 tackles, 5 assists, and 1 tackle for loss and 1 interception with a season high of 6 tackles versus FAU. Gunnar Britton and Rusty Stats, both of them was All-Conference USA. Well, Gunnar Britton was the All-Conference USA second team in 2022, along with Rusty Stats. He was a 22 Conference USA honorable mention in the Remington Award watch list. And both of them started all 14 games, and they led a line that only gave up 14 sacks all season. Losing that experience up front, protecting the quarterback, the one guy you don't want to get hit, that's just, it's hard. Braden Arvison, never missed Arvison. He was a Conference USA honorable mention in 22. He was a Conference USA preseason watch list and the Lou Groza award list. He made 15 to 21 field goals with the longest kick of 51 yards against FAU. We can look back at that kick versus Indiana, but it's tough to lose him. Joshua Simons, man, that he was automatic. And it's tough losing him. He was All-Conference USA second team on John Mackey Award watch list, 2022 Comeback Player of the Year watch list. He had 20 receptions for 273 yards and 7 TDs and the longest reception of 47. South Carolina is getting a good player in him. Joey Belljohn going to Cincinnati. In 2022, he caught 15 passes for 151 yards with the longest of 27 versus South Alabama there in the bowl game. Kyle Robichaux, he was one of my favorite running backs too. He was the 2022 Conference USA honorable mention, the Bullsworth Trophy nominee. He had 73 rushes for 496 yards and 3 TDs with the longest of 59 yards versus Indiana. Jakari Moses, being undecided, he had 26 carries for 152 yards and 5 receptions for 26 yards with his longest rush for 29 yards versus Indiana. That kind of production it's hard to lose, but I mean, man, with the receiving core that we had being so deep in a pass-happy offense, I don't blame some of them running backs for leaving. The line, if they can go somewhere and perform on a bigger stage, Texas Tech and Auburn. I mean, it's the SEC. Granted, they supposed to be SEC, but still, I feel like with some of the players we're going to talk about coming up, though, what we're losing, I feel like the experience that we're going to be gaining from them going against bigger players in practice or bigger competition, it's going to kind of offset that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, man, I wish all those guys a ton of success. I hope they all go to their next school and flourish and shine and propel themselves to an NFL career or XFL or just whatever their next step is. I hope they find what they're looking for at their next stop. I enjoyed their time when they were at Western. I enjoy every player, and I will celebrate every player when they come to Western until they leave. And then even then, I'm going to keep up with them just because I'm invested in their success. And, I want to continue to see them do well. But yeah, you mentioned it, you kind of alluded to it, this next batch of players, talking about the guys that we picked up. Even as I was making my notes for this episode, as I do for every episode, I just run down my list of talking points and et cetera, what I'm going to discuss, and just this list as I kept making it, even the guys leaving and the guys that we're bringing in, like, man, we're stacking talent, and it really just blows me away what Coach Helton and staff are able to do consistently year after year. And I have to give most of that credit and most of that shine to Helton, because especially this year, because so much of his staff just itself has turned over, coaching wise. On the defensive side of the ball, we've turned over nearly every coach, some of them a couple times over. We discussed that in a previous episode. And when we get into the coaches breakdown in the preseason later in the summer, we'll discuss that in depth, who those guys are and where they come from and what to expect. But I mean, this staff is just doing exactly what Helton needs them to do, and that's finding quality talent to fit our needs in our system. And granted, we haven't seen these guys play, but you can tell a lot from a player and get your hopes high just by, kind of looking at where they came from, what their recruiting rank was when they were in high school, and just, hoping that, Lord willing, if they stay healthy, some of these guys are going to be some big plug and play additions for us day one. So I'm going to run down this list and then again get your thoughts on it, because a lot of big names on here. A lot of people, several of these guys we've already talked about in the spring game. We did kind of highlight and talk about more of the offensive players on the spring game, but there are also some defensive guys on here that, while right now they're just a name, kind of where they come from and their profile fits of plug and play real quick and shoring up the side of the ball that, I think we're all kind of unsure about right now, what we have and what it's going to be. I think we're adding a lot of good pieces, so I'm going to go down the list real quick. First of all, Xavion Capers, wide receiver from Auburn. That was the player to complete the Gunnar Britton trade. Then we got Nante Davis, a defensive lineman from UT Martin. We have Jimmy Holiday, a wide receiver / kick returner from Tennessee. We have Trevor Borland, a tight end from Buffalo. Bronson Barron, a quarterback from Weber State. Daniel Edwards, a wide receiver from Illinois. Mike Moment, a linebacker from Alcorn State. Dallas Walker, a defensive lineman from Texas A&M. Elijah Young, a running back from Missouri. We got Blue Smith, a wide receiver from Cincinnati and Ohio State. That's the player to be named in the Joey Belgent trade to Cincinnati. I think that's a good trade, in my opinion. Blue Smith, when we talked about him at the spring game, impressive. 6'4", big body, wide receiver, stretch the field. That's a good pickup. Marquise Black, defensive lineman from Nebraska. Again, several now defensive linemen, a couple from some big Power 5 schools. There's definitely a theme and a concentration in that area. And then we've got Willie Taggart Jr., quarterback from FAU. We all know him. We all love him. We love his pops. Unfortunately, we had to put him out in the last game of their season last year. But son decided to come play quarterback for us, be on the bench. We saw him at the spring game. Looked pretty good, a little unpolished, but hadn't been here long at the time. So, who knows? Maybe we'll see him. Gimmicky plays, whatever it may be. He's on the roster. Then we got Christian Zachary, a defensive lineman from Liberty, which is interesting because we play Liberty this year. So that will be fun now that they're joining the Conference USA officially. And then most recently we have Ryan Williams, a defensive lineman from Colorado, with the mass exodus that Deion Sanders has orchestrated there. So several guys, a mixed bag of offense, defense, but definitely kind of a concentration of some defensive linemen there. I kind of feel like the staff made a concentrated effort there and picked up some big bodies that more than likely going to be plug and play, some starters from day one, or even just building depth, whatever it may be, because that rotation on defensive line is crucial to keep fresh bodies in there. So Tyler, what's your your feel on this batch of players that even though they're unknown and we've seen some of them in the spring game in action. Kind of what do you know about them? What do you like about them? Just on paper right now.
Well, I mean, you got Blue Smith, the wide receiver from Cincinnati. The boy's 6'6". I mean, that's a big wide receiver running right down the center of the field. If Austin Reed gets the ball up and out there to him, I could see him coming down with it. It's always good to get a player from Texas A&M and SEC. Zevion Capers, 6'3", another good-sized wide receiver. Dallas Walker, Texas A&M. That boy going against, his previous team in practice and on the field and stuff against the SEC. I'm excited to see what he's going to be able to do. Marcus Black from Nebraska, 6'4", 280. I mean, that boy's probably cornbread fed from the stock. He should be able to plug up a hole or two. Willie Taggart, yeah, it felt good to put him out though, that last one, and sadly to not speak ill of old former coach, but to put him out the pasture. Felt good, but I'm glad he came transferred to us. Trevor Borland, I'm glad to see that we restocked up on the tight end room a little bit. Hopefully we use them more this season than we did last season. We have got a lot of defensive line and quite a few wide receivers, but you look at Ryan Williams from Colorado, Deion Sanders, hopefully he lost a good one there. I know in that video he said, I'm bringing my own luggage and it's Louis, but, hopefully we got something better transferring into us. I'm excited about this class coming in. You got Elijah Young from Mizzou, someone who's used to running against bigger bodies. I'll take him all day. Mike Moment from Alcorn State. Hey, if he can hit hard, I'll take him. Jimmy Holiday from Tennessee. Hey, if that boy can run around some of that, can run around the field on kick return and wide receiver, I'll take him, man. I'm glad. Looking at this list, it's a good list to get because, like I alluded to said earlier, yes, we're losing a lot of experience, but I think we're bringing in a good list of experience from bigger schools, bigger bodies. I'm glad we're getting them. I'm glad they decided to sign here at Western Kentucky.
Yeah, 100%. And like we said, and I've said, these are players that, at this point, they already have some game film. These guys have played, have been in college weight room and dietary systems, have increased their body from where they were in high school. So you kind of know more along the lines of what you're getting with the athlete versus, a high schooler kid that was dominant in their state or their region, their district, whatever it may have been. But then they get to college and, they're kind of have the 8-ball. Most high school freshmen are redshirting. They're not getting plucked in there right away and playing and expected to produce. So, these batch of players are really just supplementing what we need and allowing, the younger players, the high schoolers, the more traditional depth kind of guys to redshirt, continue to grow themselves, their body, get ready for, one day it is going to be their time to shine. So I'm really, really glad and happy with, kind of how this transfer portal has shaken out. And the portal has closed as of a couple of days ago. You had to have your paperwork submitted, I think, by midnight on Sunday night there. So the portal is closed, but there still will probably be movement in that area from graduate transfers. They're not on any type of restriction on when and where they can go. And that does work both ways just as well. We are very capable of possibly losing a player or two that may choose to go somewhere else. I hope not, obviously. A graduate transfer is probably going to be a fourth, fifth year guy. We'd rather keep those guys and let them play out their year here. But, there may also be more guys that we get a chance to pluck from other schools that decide they want to go and put themselves in a better situation, or, a better school, or just whatever that may be. And like I said, I've said multiple times now, our system sells itself. We are going to be always competitive in Conference USA. We're going to be one of the better teams. We're going to be one of the better offensive teams in the nation. And that system is going to sell itself and attract bees to honey. So, I'm really, really excited. We're kind of rounding out the spring season of sports, baseball, softball, and track and field. Kind of all this stuff's coming to an end. Our last episode was our basketball feature, just talking about the coaching change and all the player movement that was happening there. At the time of the episode was all kind of outgoing, but since our episode, I know we've talked about it offline before record, that we can't take credit for it, but we were talking about some recruiting, some needs, and kind of wanting to see some traction there. And all of a sudden we've seen, just several, I think 3 or 4 recruits since that episode. Brandon Newman was that first domino. And then we've officially hired some assistant coaches right before that episode. And now we've started to see some traction in that direction with the basketball program. So, we just, there's going to be even more movement, obviously, with basketball, and just like there is with football. And then as we get into the summertime, we will definitely circle back with football and talk about, kind of the fall roster when we get into fall ball, and we start previewing positions and doing breakdowns of, who's officially on the roster, when school's starting. Summer sessions are obviously they're probably starting this week. Graduation was last weekend. Summer sessions are probably already going. So most of these guys are probably on campus and enrolled and, in the weight room and already going. And then we'll do the same with basketball. That roster is continuing to fill itself out, every day. If you keep up on Twitter, we'll always share it, kind of the interest and people visiting. That roster is continuing to shake itself out. But we'll definitely follow up and have another episode kind of breaking down, where the roster is, and when it's finalized and we get to that scholarship number of everything being fulfilled, we'll definitely follow up and talk about basketball, where it is before, the season gets going there in October, November. But yeah, if you're here, if you're listening to our episodes, you've listened to the spring game episode, you listened to the basketball episode, I've got to really give a lot of just thanks and praise for everyone listening. Every episode we've done, now this is our 4th one. We just passed our, yesterday, as we're recording late Monday, almost a Tuesday. Yesterday, Sunday, Mother's Day, was our 1 month since our first episode, the intro episode, April 14th. So this is our 4th episode, and every episode we put out, we've kind of seen that traction of people listening and more people listening. So if you're listening and you're checking in with every episode and hearing what we're doing and following us on Twitter, I just want to say thank you. There's been so much positive feedback, so much just reinforcing what we're doing. There's a need for this content and people that want to consume it. And, if you like it, if you're listening, if you follow us, tell somebody about it. Tell a friend, tell another Topper fan, share the episodes when they post. That's, you're getting our word out to more people, and we're just trying to share, all the Hilltopper information that we can. It's been really fun, and I'm really looking forward to getting into this summer, Obviously things are slowing down now. Kind of all those spring sports are coming into an end, like I've said. But real soon, we're going to be ramping back up for football. We're going to be talking about position breakdowns and really, really deep dive in this roster and talking about every single player on the depth chart, who they are, what they've done, who we've got coming back, who we're losing, and what we expect from some of these new names and faces that we've touched on a lot of them now just from this portal stuff. But there's going to be some high school and some redshirt guys that we haven't touched on or we haven't got to see, or maybe they've only played sparingly due to injuries or just rotations of substitutions. So again, I'm super thrilled and really happy for where we've come from episode 1 and the spring game episode to the basketball episode, and now doing this portal update with football. I mean, I think it was much needed. There's been a lot of movement and just a lot of new names, new players that people are going to want to know about, because this team is exciting. This program is exciting. Coach Helton really kind of has I don't want to say a high expectation, but this schedule this year, everybody's short of Ohio State. I'm checking it as a win. And my boy Tyler over here, he's smiling at me. He knows we're going to OSU. We're upsetting them. I'll be there. Hopefully Tyler's going to be there. Hopefully a lot of toppers are going to be there. But this team and this program has a lot of excitement building around them, and just expectations, and all that expectations comes from their last several years of success. And Bailey Zappi and Austin Reed last year, and Austin Reed coming back this year, and my boy Malachi Debo Corley coming back for his junior year. Man, this team's going to be fun to watch, and I can't wait to deep dive into just every single position, and really, it helps me as a fan, because I'm a fan, get to know this roster just inside and out. And when I go to games and I see a play happening across the field and I see a tackle, I know exactly who it is, because I have studied my Field Steel magazine. We'll be talking about the Bible real soon. And I know who every player is. If I don't know who they are, I'm going to find out. And I can't wait to kind of bring that next series of episodes once we get into middle end of June will be kind of when that series launches. But I'm really excited for that. And this portal episode is kind of the tip of the iceberg for that, because this is kind of that new recruiting emphasis that it's not going away. We've said that as well. This portal is not going to change. Collective and NILs they're the way of the world now. You either get on board or you get left behind. And thank goodness we have a head coach right now that is just absolutely amazing in helping to replenish the talent that we've lost. Because we talked about a lot of names this episode that we lost, people we hate to see leave, productive guys, guys that probably future pros. Josh Simon, that's a future NFL tight end right there. You can't tell me other. I'm surprised he didn't go test the NFL draft this year. I'm surprised he's going and doing another year, but another year is not going to hurt him. As long as he stays healthy, he's going to put more game film out there. And that boy's going to the league. He's too athletic and too much of a mismatched nightmare. He's going to be a special player for South Carolina and in the future. And we're always going to be happy he was a Hilltopper for several years. So that's all I've got, Tyler, man. I'm going to bring you in here. Let's get some of your final words and thoughts, just, I guess, of this whole, the off season and where we're at with recruiting and obviously this transfer portal, and hear those final words and then get the heck out of here.
All right. Well, first of all, you're right. I do want to thank the fans and the people who download, listen to us. It means a lot from the bottom of my heart. If you'd asked me a year and a half if I was going to be doing this, I would have been like, I'm not good at podcasts. I've never did it before. I just didn't think this is where I'd be, but I want to thank people for giving me for giving me the opportunity to speak to y'all about, something that I do really enjoy in Western Kentucky athletics. And as a fan myself, I do want to bring y'all the best show possible. Then I'm going to say it is good to see finally our quarterback and wide receiver get some respect on some of them polls. I mean, it should have happened last year. I'm glad it's happening this year, the preseason so far. I mean, that was ridiculous that some of the returning wide receivers didn't include Malachi Corley until maybe a week or two ago. The best returning quarterbacks didn't include Austin Reed. I mean, the boy led the NCAA in passing yards last season. That's ridiculous. Yeah, it ain't got the super name of, OSU, but screw them. I mean, let's go to the Horseshoe and just ruin their day. That's one game that I'm marking on that calendar as a big dub. And I'm like you. You can't tell me otherwise. Nothing will. But this offseason, I am excited to get that field steel and to, just like you, know the players coming in, know the players we got, see what they're expecting to happen, who's going to be the projected starters. I'm going to read all of that, digest that, and then give you my how I think it could turn out. But it's always tough to lose players, in the portal, especially ones that you've got to watch and develop their game throughout the years. Like Gunnar Britton, Rusty Stats, Braden Arvison, Joshua Simons. It's tough to lose them. I wish, they could stay, but hey, they're going on to different school. I do not hate them for it. I'm going to watch them and cheer for them, and I hope they do great things wherever they're going. But I am excited about this new batch of players we're bringing in and to see what they can bring to the table here at Western Kentucky. And I'm going to be cheering them on as loud as I can up there in the stands, or if I'm at work and I'm listening to them on the radio, I'm going to be yelling like I have been the last few years, cheering for them, saying that's bull crap, ref, stick that flag in your pocket again. That's looking back at Indiana game this past season. That was ridiculous. But now I'm looking forward to it. I'm ready to study some new players and study some new game tapes they got. And I guess that's all I got. So as always, Steven, who has it better than us?
Hey man, nobody. Go
Tops.
Later, guys.
See y'all.